So yesterday I talked about an IM named Eminent Ears Ruby, and today we'll be reviewing an IM from the same manufacturer. It is the second IM in their collection, and guess what is it named? Of course, it's pretty genius. Sapphire. It's a blue colored IM and looks pretty great. Anything that Eminent Ear produces, it will look extremely good. Now, after judging over the looks, let's start this review. And after posting that review, this happened. Fuck you guys. So as I said, Ruby had a pretty love and hate relationship with me, but Sapphire is completely different. It is not V-shaped IM, although the graph I will share with you, it is from Joyce. They provide the same amplitude in the bass, which is not correct, and they not even remotely close to what they sound in the real life. But it is a completely different approach from the Ruby. This one is a more natural, more organic, a bit more, I would say, musical, a bit more romanticized tuning that this one has, and I liked it quite a lot. The treble is a bit reduced, the bass is a bit reduced, the mid range is the focus in this IM. Now let's jump into the detailed analysis of the sound. The sub bass is more than enough for an IM tune for a natural tuning. Of course, it is a basic kind of tuning for natural tuned IMs. Good amplitude, but it is not super physical. Primarily rumbly, but it feels a bit of lost in the control of that driver. Like if you play something like Hollow 16-bit remix, the sub bass might feel a bit loose here and there. Although it's not a big of a deal because most of the music, like 99.9% of the music, can't reach that low and can provide you that level of low end. So at that level of low end, like 20 hertz, it can lose a bit of control. Very inoffensive to listen to, but always prominent in the mixes. Like the bass will not jumps out to you to give you a uh, ballistic and very room feeling experience, but it is not even remotely shy of pronouncing its presence. If you talk about the mid bass is very controlled and theoretically correct for the balanced sound signature that it is providing. Might not be my favorite kind of mid bass though, but the transition from sub to mids to the low end is like suits most of the genres out there. The drawbacks are missing punch and slam, like it has in the sub bass. The sub bass do have a bit of exaggerated slam and that authoritativeness which is missing in the mid bass, and I think it is for the lower mid range too, but the punch and slam is a bit missing. The plus point is it has an incredible slope towards the mid range and the sub bass. The whole thing, the whole half of the frequency spectrum carries most of the genres that I listen to beautifully. It is very analog sounding. It is not super fast in attack and decay, but the details and resolution are there. They are speedy enough. It is snappy, but although it's not a sub bassy or bassy IM like the Ruby, but it is still there. Now, if we talk about the lower mids introduce slight warmth in the tonality, good texturing and micro contrast are there. Like it's very good in the texturing department. The subtle nuances of the instruments can be vividly projected. Very natural and lifelike, great sense of organicness. Goes well with the tuning from the lows to high. Beautifully, it creates a warm and engaging sound. It never gets bloaty, but there is a thing that might annoy you in some instances. The vocals or the mid range might feel a bit in your face. I don't feel the soundstage is too wide for this IM, so whenever something mid range comes to you, it will stay in your face, which I don't think I have a problem or I can complain about, although I don't like that thing. Upper mids are inoffensive and smooth for the most part. They do feel upfront in a placement for the vocalist too, as well as the lower mids. There is not much of shines and sparkles that you can notice in this region. No fatigue even if you wear it for 8 hours at a stretch. Decently textured, not as textured as the bass or the lower mids. It is not as nuanced as the other half of the spectrum, but The reason might be it is pretty safe upper mids. So I don't know how you will perceive it, but it's a drawback for me in the upper mids. I would have liked a bit more sparkle, a bit more details, a texturing, which like the lower end, like the lower mids, but we don't get that in this IM. Treble on this IM is very refined without taking any risk. The tonality is very correct and it performs a sonic representation that is indicative to a more safer tuning, uh, which might not be something that I like, but it goes very well with the bass and the mid range. Fairly detailed, but the textures are not as prominent in the treble region. The thing is that as high as you go in the frequency spectrum, the texture, the sense of texture gets loosed in the meantime. Notes are well separated, but the micro contrast and the crunchiness that I love, people might call it third order harmonics, and the BA drivers is not there. Bite and crunch is not super fast or effective like when you play Layla by Eric Clapton. The initial attack is there, but it is not, I would say you can't imagine it if you close your eyes, uh, that you can do in a real life situation. So that thing I felt is a bit missing, but overall the representation is more tuned towards a romanticized timbre, which is extremely colorful and I would say likable to most people. Now, if you talk about the air frequencies are not there by much. I love air frequencies, but they are not that much in this region, and they are again fairly resolving. It is not. I would say it is okay for an 1.5K IM, but it is not mind blowing or something like that. So overall, it's a pretty well tuned IM for mid range, and I can see a lot of similarity with the Supernova. Although I think for me personally, I would pick this as a superior Supernova or Supernova on steroids, because it can do everything well that Supernova does, except in the technicality area. The depth in Supernova is a bit much. I would take this as a replacement of Supernova if I have something to upgrade to, and of course, yeah, if I had money, I would definitely buy this. And it's a pretty good sounding IM. It's romanticized, it's safe, it's a pretty good sounding IM overall. Now, if we come to the tech part of this IM, which is very objective, this will not impress you that much. The soundstage is not huge, it is just there, it is not in your head, or it is not two dimensional, it is just there as a normal sounding IM, nothing exemplary for a 1.5K IM. Although this the soundstage does play pretty role in the, what I can say, presentation of the frequency spectrum, because this goes very well with the tuning. The HD 600 is pretty closed sounding IM, but it goes very well with the mid range. So does the Sapphire, and it's not something that I can complain about, because it's just puts you in a completely different mood. The treble tuning also doesn't help in this area too much, because there is not much air frequencies out there. The imaging is very okay too. There is the stereo separation on this IM is good, but the pinpoint placement I don't think can be achieved with this IM. Dynamics is also it is not too dynamic for a 1.5K IM, like just because the upper range is a bit reduced, the dynamics do feel a bit of discontinued. But again, it is a kind of romanticized timbre, so that sacrifice is manageable for me, because I don't look for dynamics in the tracks that I enjoy with this IM too much. It is fairly dynamic for anything pop, rock. It's good for that. But if you like excellent orchestra recordings, this might not serve you well. If you talk about the resolution is pretty average for the 1.5K IM. It is not, it will not blow your mind by any means. It's a pretty average 1.5K IM. It can't compete with something like 408H Spider, which is by Jomo, Skyline, and it fairly competes with other things, that it is more resolving than Supernova by a huge margin. That but it is not remotely close to resolve as well as the higher end of the IMs that this budget is producing. But I don't need resolution, as I have the texturing with this IM. Resolution, like doesn't take away my attention anyhow, just because the texturing of the vocalist, the instruments are so strong and so vivid. The timbre on this IM again is a bit romanticized, so it is not super accurate. Like the pianos will feel a bit of less air, violins will feel a bit of less air, drums will have a blunted dynamics, but it is flavorful. It is not accurate, but it is a good sense of flavor that I liked a lot. Now, if you ask about my personal liking of this IM, I loved this IM, as I said, and I would definitely buy this IM. If I had the money, I would pick this over the Ruby. The mid range on this IM is just beautiful. I can plug this IM in my rig and can spend hours at the end, and I can spend sleepless nights. It's that kind of an IM. It won't wow you with its tech. The sound stage is not much. The imaging is not that great. The resolution is not that great. The macro resolutions, a definition of the instruments are a lot better than the micro details and micro contrast. These terms might not resonate with you that much, but it is the simplest form of explanation that I can give to you about the Sapphire. Another problem that I faced with Sapphire is the power delivery. I don't know how do the Eminent Ears manage to do that, but every IM they produce requires a loads of power. Like you can play this Sapphire on a dongle deck. You will need something like Mojo 2 RT5000. It needs a bit of power to sound the absolute best. Now, if I have to compare it with something, I don't know. As I said, it is supernova but supercharged. It is extremely likable to my preference. This just connects with me, and I am feeling a bit of bias towards this tuning. And I don't think that everyone would love this. They did a pretty great job with this IM, and I'm super happy with it. This is my time. Thanks for watching my videos, and bye. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Peace.